Have you ever felt like other people's lives are always more beautiful than yours? As if everyone around you had brighter colors, better luck, and fewer problems? This story begins with an unexpected animal and a simple wish, but one that reflects a powerful truth for anyone who constantly compares themselves. Why do we often believe that happiness lies outside, in someone else's skin or wings? And what stops us from seeing the worth in what we already have? The answer comes from a lesson taught by a creature many disregard, the raven. Yes, that black and silent bird that flies through trees unnoticed by almost everyone. It was a day like any other. The sky was still, and among the branches of a tall tree, a lonely raven mourned his existence. His dark feathers felt heavier than usual. He didn't just feel invisible, he felt rejected. He sobbed quietly until a tear escaped and landed on the face of a monk resting beneath the tree. Curious about the drop from above, the monk looked up and saw the weeping bird. "Why do you cry, my friend?" he asked gently. The raven, downcast, replied with a voice full of sorrow. "No one loves me. People avoid me, chase me away, offer me neither food nor kindness. It feels like my existence is a mistake. Sometimes, I think dying would be better than living like this." With the compassion only the wise possess, the monk tried to calm the bird's heart. Life is never a mistake. But my friend, there's beauty in accepting who we are. Peace begins when we stop wishing to be someone else. But the raven, drowning in sadness, couldn't see beyond his pain. So the monk had an idea. He leaned forward and said, "All right. Tell me, if you could be any other bird, who would you choose to be?" The raven, slightly hopeful, answered instantly, "I would like to be a swan. White, pure, admired by all." The monk smiled and said, "Very well. But before I use my power to transform you, go speak to a swan. Ask if he is truly happy. Then return and tell me." Without hesitation, the raven flew off. He went to a known lake where a swan glided peacefully over the water's reflection. He approached and asked, "Brother Swan, you are so white, so graceful. Everyone admires you. Are you happy?" The swan paused before replying, as if carrying a heavy truth. "I used to be admired, yes. But you know, there are so many beautiful colors in the world, and I have none. Being entirely white makes me feel invisible next to all the vibrant beauty around. If there's a truly happy bird, it must be the parrot, so vivid, so full of life." Intrigued, the raven went in search of a parrot. He found one in a tropical tree, surrounded by ripe fruit. The parrot's green, blue, and red feathers gleamed in the sun. "Parrot, you are so colorful. People adore you, teach you words. It must be wonderful to be you." But the parrot answered with sadness in his eyes, "My colors are my prison. People want to trap me, show me off. I live in fear of being captured. I have no freedom. If there's a happy bird, perhaps it's the peacock. He's even more beautiful than I am, with a royal tail." Once again, the raven flew off. This time it was harder. He had to soar over a city to find a zoo, where a peacock lived behind iron bars. Dozens of visitors surrounded the cage, taking pictures and admiring the bird. When the crowd dispersed, the raven approached, curious and hopeful. "Peacock, you are the most beautiful bird I've ever seen. Your plumage is fit for royalty. You must be the happiest of us all." The peacock sighed and said, "When I was younger, I believed that too. But look where I am. My beauty became a trap. I live in a cage. People pluck my feathers for decoration. Each feather they take feels like a piece of me is gone. If I could choose, I'd be a raven. Yes, a raven. Free overlooked, but master of the open sky." The raven was silent. Those words struck him like lightning. How could this be? The most admired bird of all wanted to be him? He returned to the monk, still stunned by all he had discovered. Landing on the same branch, he spoke firmly. Master, I no longer want to be another bird. I've realized that each one carries hidden struggles, and the freedom I once despised was the most precious gift I had. The monk smiled, as if he already knew the answer. Now, my friend, you've understood what few ever do. That peace begins when we stop comparing our pain to others and start valuing what is uniquely ours. This fable isn't just about birds. It's about me, about you, about anyone who's ever looked sideways and felt something was missing. We believe happiness is always in another form, another face, another life. But in the end, what truly imprisons us isn't what we have. It's the needless desire to be something else. It's when we fail to recognize the quiet blessings we already hold. True joy begins not when we chase someone else's life, but when we finally start walking within our own. Have you ever wished for someone else's life without knowing the weight they carry? Keep reading. This raven has a lesson you need to hear. A freedom that was always there. When the raven returned to the tree, where the monk still waited patiently, he was no longer the same. Something in his gaze had shifted, as if the burden of comparison had dissolved. He hadn't just flown through places. He had flown through truth. I don't want to be a swan, or a parrot, or a peacock, he said calmly. I've learned that behind every appearance, there's a hidden sorrow. And the freedom I used to ignore was actually a treasure I had all along. The monk looked to the sky and said softly, Now you are ready to fly, not with your wings, but with your understanding. As the raven disappeared into the clouds, the wise man lay once more beneath the tree's shadow. He smiled. True transformation, he knew, doesn't change your shape, it changes your mind. In the days that followed, the same raven saw the world differently. He was still overlooked by people, yes. He still flew alone, yes. But now, every tree was a palace, every crumb on the ground was a feast, and every flight was an anthem of freedom. Other birds noticed. One hummingbird asked him one day, Have your eyes always shined like that? The raven replied, No. The shine appeared only when I stopped trying to reflect someone else's light. The hummingbird laughed and flew away with a soft buzz. Not everyone would understand, and the raven accepted that. It didn't matter anymore. Meanwhile, in the zoo, the peacock remained in his golden cage, admired and photographed. But each time the gate creaked open, he looked up, hoping to spot that raven again. And each time he saw him soaring free, he felt something he couldn't name, a longing for an unlit dream. At the lake, the swan had also changed. After speaking with the raven, he began to find beauty in his quiet reflection. He saw that his colorless feathers were not a flaw, but a symbol of peace. In silence, he stopped wishing to be more colorful. The parrot, in turn, began valuing the sound of freedom more than the words he had been taught to repeat. One day, he refused to mimic his owner's commands and, for the first time in a long while, flew out of the cage. It was difficult, yes, but it had to be done. This tale, woven between wings and branches, is far more human than it seems. At some point, we are all the raven. We've all felt that others had more charm, more luck, more applause, more reasons to smile. But maybe beauty lies in understanding that no one has it all, and that every life has its own thorns, even when the garden looks in full bloom. Happiness, as the raven learned, doesn't come from changing your skin. It's hidden in how you see. It's in accepting what we have, not as a burden, but as a gift. Sometimes quiet, sometimes flawed, but ours nonetheless. And if, by chance, tomorrow you see a raven flying alone in the sky, remember, perhaps he is the happiest of all birds. Not because he is everything, but because he finally learned to stop wanting everything he sees. And maybe, just maybe, that's the freedom we're all looking for. If this story touched you, share it with someone who keeps comparing themselves and needs to remember, freedom begins when we value what we already have.